Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about families of quadratic functions. So a family, if you think of your family, it means you have something in common. So you have parents, you have the same mother, the same father, you have siblings, so you have something in common. It's the same with quadratic. So a family of quadratic means they have either the same vertex, the same zeros, or the same y-intercept. So they could have one of these, two of these, or they can't have all three of them because that means that would mean it's the same, the identical problem. But they can have one of them or two of these. Now let's look at the first example. So we have this function 2x minus 4 squared plus 7. And they're asking us to determine another quadratic function with the same vertex. So first of all, we have to identify what is the vertex. So this is the vertex form, which means that the vertex is 4 and 7. So g of x would mean that I have a times x minus 4 squared plus 7. So a can be anything but 2. So a can be 3, a can be -1, a can be 1 over 2, a can be basically anything except 2. Because if it's true, then it's not another quadratic function, it's actually the same one. Number 2, determine the quadratic function that passes through the point -320 and has its zeros at 2 and -1. So because we know the zeros, it doesn't really make sense to use the vertex form. So we're going to use the factored form, which is a x minus s x minus t. And s is 2 because it's given to me, and t is -1, which means that my function looks like a times x minus 2 times x minus -1. So essentially, f of x equals a times x minus 2 times x plus 1. Now, I don't know what a is, but there's another clue that's given to me. And this is that the quadratic function passes through -320, which means when x is -3 and y is 20, the parabola passes through this point. So if we substitute the -3 and the 20 into this function f of x, we will have 20 equals a times, instead of x, we put -3, so it's -3 minus 2 times -3 plus 1. -3 minus 2 is -5, -3 plus 1 is -10, so 20 equals 10a, which means a equals 2. So the function, the quadratic function that passes through this point and has zeros 2 and -1, is 2 times x minus 2x plus 1. What happens if my zeros are radicals? Well, it's kind of the same procedure. It's just instead of 2 and -1, we're going to have 3 plus root 3, 3 minus root 3. So if we put these ones inside the bracket, you have to be mindful that when you're subtracting the s and the t, you have to put the brackets, because s is technically a binomial, and t is the same. So it's got two terms. So f of x equals a times x minus 3 plus root 3, x minus 3 minus root 3. So we have, if we remove the brackets, we have a times x minus 3 minus root 3, x minus 3 plus root 3. Now we also have another hint, which says the y-intercept is 9. So the y-intercept, if we put it in point form, we know that x is 0 because it's a y-intercept, and the y value is 9. So we're going to substitute x equals 0 and y equals 9 into this function. So will be 9 equals a times 0 minus 3 minus root 3 times 0 minus 3 plus root 3. So if you notice, we have the first term is -3 and the second term is root 3, and we have a minus and a plus, which means this is difference of squares. So that means Negative 3 will be squared minus root 3 squared, which means 9 minus 3 equals 6. So A equals 9 over 6, and if we simplify it, is 3 over 2. So we found the value of A, and now if we put everything together, we will have f of x equals 3 over 2, x minus 3 plus, sorry, x minus 3 minus root 3 times x minus 3 plus root 3. So I see that here. There was a cutoff. So just know that this is x minus 3 plus root 3. Okay, let's go through number 4. So a highway overpass has a shape that can be modeled by the equation of a parabola. If the edge of the highway is the origin, so right here, and the highway is 10 meters high, what is the equation of this parabola? If the height of the overpass, 2 meters, from the edge of the highway is 13 meters. So 2 meters from the edge of the highway, I'm going to say the edge of the highway is here, so I'm going 2 meters in. So the height here of the arch is 13 meters. Okay, so first of all, let's go back to the first 2 sentences. So what do I know about the first? What information is given in the first 2 sentences? To be more exact, in the second sentence. So if the edge of the highway is the origin, that means this is one of the zeros, and the highway is 10 meters wide, it means this one is the other zero. So essentially, we know the 2 zeros, which means we can put this equation into the factored form. So the factored form will look like y equals a x, because it's x minus 0, so it's x, times x minus 10. And to find the value of a, we need to substitute the point that we know that it's given to us in the third, actually in the second part of the second sentence. So x is 2 and y is 13, which means 13 equals a times 2 minus 10. So a equals negative 13 over 16, which means this equation, because essentially that's what we have to find. What is the equation of the parabola? The equation is negative 13 over 16 x times x minus 10. And to put this into a function form, therefore f of x equals negative 13 over 16. X times x minus 10 would be the final answer. Now the homework is listed below. So it's page 192, number 4 CD, 5 BC, 6, 9, 10, and 11. Okay.